All right, so hopefully you guys have gotten some vocabulary for this section about factoring. It's our first day of factoring, and I'm really excited because I just think this is really fun. But then again, I'm a little weird. But I love factoring because you're basically looking for two magic numbers that will give you the product and the sum. And we are kind of going backwards from what we've done in the past. So you guys remember when we found binomial Bob, when we would FOIL two binomials, something like this, perhaps. Hopefully you're remembering what that is. But today we're going to go backwards, and this type of problem is going to be our answer. And you're going to start with something that looks like this. So you're going to have a trinomial that I'm going to ask you to factor, and your answer is going to be two binomials. So before we jump right into it, I just kind of wanted to ease you into things and practice finding magic numbers or magic factors. So our first one here, we want to know what is a number, what are two factors that will give you a product of 10 and a sum of 7. So what I like to do is start with products. So remember, product means when you're multiplying what two numbers, and then the sum would be two numbers added together. So let's start with product. So factors of 10. I'm going to start with 1 times 10, and then 2 and 5, and I think that's it. Those are the only factors of 10. So those multiply to give me 10. Do any of them add to give me 7? Well, that would be 2 and 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. 2 plus 5 is 7. So those are my magic numbers, my magic factors. Okay, it's as easy as that. All right, let's look at this one. Start with a product of 16. So we're going to list our factors of 16. So 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 3 doesn't work, so 4 and 4. So those are all my factors of 16. So now I'm going to look and see what can add to give you 10, and that would be 2 and 8. So 2 times 8 is 16, and 2 plus 8 is 10. So those are my magic numbers. And then we have 16 again. So I'm not going to list them again, but let's look back at these factors. So those multiply to give you 16. Now which one would add to give you 8? Well, this time it's going to be 4 and 4. So I'm going to write 4 and 4. All right, let's look at these. So now we want to get the product of 24. So I'm going to list them out. So 1 and 24. Oops. 2 and 12. And 3 and 4. And that's not right. Sorry, guys. Thinking 12. 3 and 8 will give you 24. 4 and 6, and I think that's it. All right, so now we want to look what will add to give you 11, and that would be our 3 and our 8. So hopefully you guys are seeing this magic number business. All right, last one's a little weird because we have this negative, so I want to show you how that's a little different. So still start with 36. So my factors of 36, I'm going to write them over here this time. So I have 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and doesn't work, does it? 36. Oh, 12, sorry. And then 4 and 9. 5 doesn't work. 6 and 6. Alright, so now we need to figure out what is going to give us negative 15. So I'm going to look through and see if anything gives me 15. So if I added 3 and 12, that would give me a positive 15. but I need it to be a negative 18. So what could I do to those two numbers when I add them to make the answer negative? So thinking about it, hopefully you're seeing that if I make both of those numbers negative, negative 3 plus negative 12, that will give me a negative 15. But remember, it has to multiply to give us positive 36. So let's check that. So negative 3 times negative 12, will that give me a positive 36? And yes, it will. So the trick here is when it needs to multiply to give you a positive and add to give you a negative, you're just going to make both of the numbers negative. Okay? So let's write down that rule real quick. When the product is positive and the sum is negative, sum is positive, then both factors are going to be positive. But like this last one, if the product is positive and the sum is negative, both factors are going to be negative. So all of your answers today are either going to be both positive or both negative. Okay? Alright, so let's get into the real deal here. This is a trinomial, and this is what you're going to be factoring. So we need two numbers whose product is going to be this last number. So this number right here is what you're looking for the product of. So what will multiply together to give you 15. Okay? The sum is going to be this middle number. So this 8, this is what we want the sum of. Okay, so just like we were doing up in this chart, we want the product of 15 and the sum of 8. So what you're going to do is you're going to list out your factors of 15 because that's what you need the product of. So let's list them out. So we have 1 and 15. 2 doesn't work, so 3 and 5. Sorry, I have some lag going on here. And that's it. So I'm going to look which one of these will add to give me 8. And it's 3 and 5. So the magic numbers are 3 and 5. So now we're going to put it into two binomials. Remember I said we're going backwards? Before you were foiling something that looks like this, but now we're going to put our answer into something like this. So our magic numbers are 3 and 5. So 3 and 5 are going to be in the back here. And then we're going to have an X and an X. And the trickiest part of factoring is figuring out what your signs are. So it had to multiply to be a positive and add to be a positive. So according to our rule, that means that it's going to be positive here and positive here. Okay? So if I were to FOIL this out, and I'm just going to show you this once just to kind of show you what the heck we're doing. If I were to FOIL this to check it, it should come out to be this trinomial. So if I do FOIL, I would get x squared, and then outer would be 5x. You do not have to do this, inner, but this is a good way to check. 3 times 5. And then you combine your like terms, so I end up with x squared plus 8x plus 15. So when you're just starting factoring and you're not sure if you're doing it right, if you remember how to FOIL, if you FOIL it out, you should get your original trinomial. Okay, and this one does check out. So this is my final answer. Okay? Craziness. And we're going to spend so many days practicing this because it's really tricky, but I think it can be pretty fun because you're finding those magic numbers. So I'm going to try one more with you guys, and then I'm going to have you guys try these practice problems. Okay, so this time we need it to be the product of 20. So remember, this last number is what we're looking for the product of. And then we need it to be the sum of this middle number. Now notice that our middle number is negative. So this time it's a negative 9. Okay, so this one's going to be a little different than the one we just did. So always start out by finding your factors of this last number. So we have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 doesn't work, 4 and 5, and I'm done. Okay? So if you remember back to your rules on the second page, if it needs to be the product of a positive number and the sum of a negative, that means both of your numbers are going to be negative. So I'm going to make all of these negative. Because a negative times a negative is a positive, and a negative plus a negative is a negative. So which one of these combinations would add up to negative 9? And right now it would be this last set of factors. So negative 4 times negative 5 gives you a positive 20. And negative 4 plus negative 5 gives you a negative 9. So those are my magic numbers. So I'm going to write them in my binomials by factoring. So remember, you always start with x times x. Our magic numbers are 4 and 5, and they're both negative. So again, if you're unsure about it, you can FOIL it out to check it, and if you FOIL it out correctly, you should come up with this trinomial. Okay? Alright, so that's factoring in a nutshell, our first day of it. I want you guys to give it a go, try these out, and then make sure you get them checked before you move on.